First off, I apologize for the lighting. It is like Gloomtown, USA today outside, which inherently I don't mind usually, but when filming, it's the worst. Hey guys, it's Reagan, and today I'm gonna film a video which is a little fun. I always say that. It's fun. Well, you know, filming's fun. I think it's fun. But yeah, so today's video is going to be inspired off of books I've read because of Booktube. I'm sure everyone who watches Booktube, myself included because I watch a lot of Booktube, we can all relate to the fact that we read stuff all the time because other people are so excited about it. And in fact, I pick up a lot of things I probably would have never picked up purely because of Booktube. So today I'm going to talk about some books that I picked up because of this. The first book on my list is Fango by Rainbow Rowell. This book was like the book 2 years ago on Booktube. When this novel came out, everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about how cute it was, how funny it was. I mean, you didn't know, this is a contemporary novel following a young girl named Kath in her first year of college and all of her struggles of like trying to find her place there and along those lines. This book came to me in kind of a perfect part of my life. I read this in my freshman year of college and I found it to be extremely relatable, but honestly I probably would never have picked it up if I didn't hear all those fantastic things about it on Booktube. I don't read contemporary very often at all, and when I do, I rarely even hang on to it afterwards because it doesn't really stick with me in the long term. But this book I read entirely because of Booktube and I loved it. Very grateful for Booktube for pushing me to read this novel. Next up is kind of a cheat because I'm reading it right now, and that is The School for Good and Evil by Saman Chandani. So this novel is kind of funny. I've owned this book for years. Again, I got it because of Booktube and then I've since owned it for a long time, and I've almost gotten rid of this book countless times. I look at it and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that. I think I just bought it because of the hype, yada yada. And right before I pulled the trigger of getting rid of it, I watched someone else talk about how much fun and how great it was as a story, so then I keep it for a little longer and the cycle continues. But I finally picked this up yesterday. I was like, okay, I just need to try reading it. And I love it so far. I'm 100 pages in, 120 pages in, and so far it is amazing. So the hype on Booktube was founded. But this is a middle grade novel following a school where they basically train princesses or villains. So kids get sorted into the school for good or the school for evil. It follows two characters, Sophie and Agatha, and they both think they're gonna go to their respective schools, but they get switched. Like, Agatha thinks she's gonna go to the bad school, but she goes to the good school and vice versa. And so far it's so funny and so great, and I love it so far, so yeah. Next up on the list we have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This is on here because, again, everyone was talking about it, and this is a novel I probably wouldn't have picked up on my own. At this time in my life when I read this book, adult fiction terrified me. I hadn't read very much of it and I wasn't sure if it was something I would like as much as I liked YA, but then I read this book, I loved this book, and I realized that I can read YA and adult books just the same, and they both offer amazing stories to tell and offer me a lot of wonderful insights and things along those lines. This is a World War II historical fiction novel. It won the Pulitzer Prize. Pretty much everyone loves this book. This isn't just like a Booktube made me read it moment. This is also like the world made me read it moment, but Next on the list is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Booktube has like, I'm pretty sure Booktube's in a committed relationship with The Raven Boys. Like, I haven't seen any bad review about The Raven Boys ever. I'm not saying people haven't liked this book, but I just feel like I've never come across a bad review of this book. And the reason why this has made my list, because usually a book like this would definitely be on my radar regardless, but Maggie Stiefvater as an author, I did not like her previous book series that I had read before this came out, so I had no intention of picking this up ever. I was like, I hated those books. Those were awful. I'm not going to read anything by Maggie Stiefvater. But thank God Booktube told me how great it was, because it is really great. The writing and the story is so compelling, and it's so entirely different from her Shiver series that it's almost confusing. But yeah, Booktube totally made me read The Raven Boys, this fantastic YA fantasy novel. Grateful for it. And the last three books I'm going to talk about are books that I read right before the start of my Booktube career and where I was just watching Booktubers, or right at the beginning during like I was like, I gotta read what's popular. I gotta know what the people are reading. The first one is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I read this before I started Booktube at all. I remember reading it in the doctor's office. I read it in a day when I was sick. This book, I mean, this series is still, it's all over the place. Every time the new book comes out, it's talked about endlessly. But when Cinder and Scarlet first came out, I just felt like someone was like yelling at me every day to read them, and I finally did, and I finally understood, because this series is so much fun. Science fiction retelling of stories or fairy tales. It's amazing, but this is probably one of the most hyped up series aside from like the Shadowhunter series on Booktube, in my opinion. Like, the Lunar Chronicles are everywhere, guys. Next up, we have probably the second most hyped up series. It's older now, so since the last book has come out 2 years ago, people haven't really been talking about it as much except for Whitney, because that's her job. And that is Shatter Me by Shatter Me. This was this was on my TBR for the second month I was ever in Booktube. It was in my July TBR. I distinctly remember that for some reason. And I totally picked this up because at that time Booktube was in a huge dystopian phase, and I had heard really great things about this, and I wasn't disappointed. I really liked the Shatter Me series by Shatter Me. I'm not sure if I would enjoy it as much as I do now, but I totally read it because everyone was talking about it, and it was totally like the talk of the town at the time. And yeah, it was a great ride. I loved waiting for these guys to come out. It was a lot of fun. I like talking about it on the internet as well. It was a good time. And the last book on my list is TheDarkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I'm pretty sure Christine got everyone to read this back in the day. I had never heard of it, and then all of a sudden everyone was talking about it. I saw Christine's book talk, blah blah blah, and I was like, yeah, I love dystopian. You can tell this was 2 years ago, but I was like, yeah, I love dystopian. I gotta check that out, and it was so fun. I had such a great time reading this book. Definitely one of my formative Booktube books for sure. One of my favorite series back in the day was TheDarkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken, and dystopian. Like, this is like a snapshot in my life when I just only read dystopian books, like Divergent, The Darkest Minds, Hunger Games, like all those books, so it's kind of great to reflect back on this. But yeah, I read this because of Booktube. I'm grateful for Booktube for making me read it. It was formative, you know? Alright guys, those are some of my favorite books that Booktube has made me read. Let me know down below some books you've read because of Booktube. I would love to know. Hopefully it's Mistborn. Anyway, I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!